Actually, what I want to talk to you about in the limited time that I have, and that will go by in a moment or two, is something that is very profoundly a part of my life and has been for the past couple of years. It is something that I have been experiencing since I wrote the last book that I published, Real Magic, last summer. And some very strange and wonderful things have been happening in my life in this period of time. And when I finished writing You'll See It When You Believe It, and had published that, and I felt that it was my effort to sort of unmod the metaphysical and make it available to all of us, and not some esoteric practice that you have to sit in the cave and figure out for yourself. That it's something that we can all apply and live with every day in our lives. I really thought that I was through with writing for a while, and had decided to do some other things in my life, to go into disguise almost, to disappear. And I had taken up this practice of meditation, now 5 or 6 years. And what happens when you get on this path is that you think that you're sort of in charge of your life, and you think that you're doing it. I remember reading Carl Jung's great line, and he said that at the same moment you are the protagonist in your own life and you're making choices, there's also a paradox. He said that very same moment you are also the spear carrier or the extra in a much larger drama. And he said he put it this way, which is really the ultimate paradox: you are doomed to make choices. So there's really sort of a self-canceling statement in there. If you're making choices, then how could all the choices be made? And I talked to Ram Dass about this, and he said it's the reason for the smirk on the face of the Buddha. If you can get that paradox figured out, that yes, indeed, you do have a free will, and you are making choices, and they're all being made for you all at the same time, like living with those opposites and cleaving those, that dichotomy. It's a very powerful notion. But what happens is that you get on this path and you start moving along, and I didn't really want to take the time to face 500 empty pages again, because I don't write books like most people do. They all come right out of inside of here. I don't go to the library and spend a lot of time looking up what other people have said about it, and then putting it in different words. It comes out of my consciousness somehow. And it became very evident that I was to write about this thing called miracles, about creating miracles. And what I have written about and what I'm sharing with you here today is exactly what I am doing here on this stage right now. It is something that I'm going to ask you to take a real hard look at in just an hour's time or so. And that is, how can you surrender and let go and become detached from the outcome and the stuff that you seek after in your life? How can you do that and still have the things that you want come into your life? How does that paradox work? One of the things that I have learned in my own speaking is to let go of the outcome, to be unconcerned with the reaction and what's in it for me. And indeed to you, just surrender. And in my meditation before I speak, I always repeat the mantra endlessly over and over again. And I find myself doing this more and more in my life, and something that I urge you to do. I ask the question, how may I serve? Just how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? There are 1,000 people there. How may I serve them? How? It's like getting the focus off of what's in it for me and how do I look and whether I say the right thing and whether people like what I say and whether they buy things that I have or whatever. And instead, like letting all of that go, just letting that go and getting the focus of your life, the centeredness of your life on this business of serving. And the irony of it is that when you get to that point where you're able to do it and let go of that outcome, all of the stuff that you chased after and worked so hard for and figured you had to have back here begins to chase after you and show up in your life. And it isn't you're no longer on the treadmill. It's like a surrendering. And so that's what I do when I come on stage. And it's almost as if God says to me, as long as you stay on purpose, you'll never stumble and you'll know what to say. And when you get off of that, when you shift your alignment away from that, then you won't be able to do what you're doing. And the same thing happened in the writing of this real magic. For the first time in my life, I experienced what has become what I have come to call automatic writing, where I left home and went off to Maui and sat down, and in 8 weeks' time just produced this book without any struggle whatsoever, not one moment of struggle. And it just seemed to be there, and it seemed to flow. And I can type like when I sit down and type a letter or a contract or anything that I might have to put out on a typewriter. I'm one of these kind of typists. I just look around. I can do it rather quickly, but I have never had the formal training in typing. But when I write at this middle typewriter, I can go along and close my eyes and write at 70 and 80 words a minute. When you get into that automatic, and I can't tell you how I do that, my wife will walk by where I'm writing, because I rent my own little place, and she can walk by and tell when I'm writing and when I'm just resting. And she'll walk by and she'll say, "The typewriter must have been smoking. You were going so fast." And it was like that for 8 weeks of time, just because I had completely let go. And I wasn't concerned with whether the editors liked it, how it came out, whether or not it was a bestseller, whether people were going to buy it, whether the reviews were going to be nothing. It was like and it's a very peaceful place that I'm asking you to look at and get to in your own life. Just before I left for Australia a couple of weeks ago, I was on the show on CNN called Sonia Live. And Sonia and I went to school together. I mean, we've been friends forever. And we sat down to do the interview, and she said to me, "Wayne Dyer, it says here that you haven't had a cold in 15 years. She said, "Now I've known you for a long time." She said, "Very frankly, I don't believe that." Well, that's Sonia. That's the way she works. That's fine. I love Sonia. And there was a time when if somebody said that to me on national television, I would say, "Well, wait a minute, I'm going to now. I have to defend myself." And you get into that position of, I'd call my doctor right now or whatever, and start defending yourself. And when you get to be free, you don't need to defend yourself. You know, you just have this knowing. And I said, "That's all right if you don't believe it." And I said, next question. There was no anxiety about it. There was I don't care if millions of people are watching. Doesn't make any difference. I'm not attached to any of that. It's like, I know that I don't get those things. And it's fine if you don't believe it. You don't have to. I'm not living my life for that reason. It's like being self-referred rather than object-referred. And I can do the same thing even with criticism. There was, I now get letters of criticism, which you do, which everyone does. And I even tell my own children over and over again when they worry about their reputation and all that. I say, forget your reputation. It's not located in you. You go out and give a talk to 1,000 people when you leave. You have 1,000 reputations. What am I going to do? Follow every one of you home? Did you like me? Did you think I was all right? What did you think? Did you think some think great, some not? Some going to think, well, he's got more hair than Bernie, so I'm going to say, well, maybe he shaved. You can't be consumed with that. I say the only thing I tell my children is forget about your reputation because it's not located in you. And if it's not located in you, let it go. Don't be attached to that. But you can be concerned with your character, who you are, and just be that and get your life on purpose. Now, I must say to you very frankly that I wasn't always this way, particularly about criticism. Now, when I get letters of criticism from people, I send them a free book, another one, or flowers, or I don't find myself needing to defend myself. I didn't always do that. For 10 years, well, after I wrote Erroneous Zones and Pulling Your Own Strings, 10 years, I used to have a form letter that I would send to anybody who wrote me a nasty letter. Then I would just sign my name at the bottom. And I got it from H.L. Mencken, who was a great satirist of the early part of this century. And he had this wonderful... And I thought, what a great idea. So I would write this letter. It said, I am sitting here in the smallest room in my house with your letter in front of me. Soon it will be behind me. And I would sign my name. So I must not still be in the place I'd like to be, because I still find that kind of funny, you know. But I stopped doing that a few years back. So this surrendering process is really just crucial. And what I'm going to ask you to do, see, I am in the process now of putting together in my own mind ideas for something I'll probably write a year or two from now, and I want to share it with you here this evening. And I haven't shared it too much in public because I'm working on it in my own life, and it's this. Like, if you really want miracles to show up in your life, you have to be able to do these three things, all right? And I'm going to just sort of... There'll be three, but I'll probably get to the third one 2 minutes before I finish, but it's okay because the first one is the toughest for people, and I'll get to that in a moment. And this three-part sort of paradigm is what I think of as the secret formula to manifesting miracles in our lives. See, I began to write about miracles not because I thought it was time to write another book, but because I couldn't stop myself from doing it. It's the only thing, real magic is the only thing that I've ever written that I don't take credit for, that I really feel was written through me, that I was a messenger in this case. And so as I talk about it around the world now, about this business of being able to create something for yourself that is truly miraculous, what I'd like you to do is to just get a picture in your own mind of what it is that would constitute a miracle for you. You know, something that you may have walked in here today not believing was possible for you to do, or in order for it to occur, it would require some kind of special divine intervention or some kind of luck or great happenstance, and all the cosmic dice would all have to flow. It's exactly right, perfectly, in order for it to occur. I'd like you to just be able to just picture what that is, and it could be anything. I mean, there might be people in here. Most of us, when we finish today, will get up and walk out and go to our cars and drive home. There are some who will not walk out. There are some who've been in a wheelchair for, the last whatever, and to just stand and walk would indeed constitute a miracle. So your miracle may not be somebody else's. For some, it may be an enormous healing to be able to rid ourselves of something that we have believed was not possible. Certainly after hearing Bernie Siegel, you would begin to doubt whether or not there was anything that was impossible in the way of healing. In touring with Australia, I spent the last 11 or 12 days with Deepak Chopra and Stuart Wilde. The three of us toured these cities, and Deepak's message, and he and I have teamed up on some tapes now and some writing projects and so on, gives us an indication that within each one of us is an enormous power that I'll be talking about shortly. And your miracle might involve something to do with relationships or with manifesting prosperity, getting the right job, losing the one you got, getting the right partner, getting rid of the one you have, moving, raising your talent level, getting the right connection, whatever it may be, just sort of get a picture of it. And the first of these three things for this paradigm for miracle making, I call banish the doubt. That's Roman numeral 1. Even if you're not writing, or if you're listening on tape, banish the doubt. Most of us have been raised on doubt. Most of us have been raised to believe in what we can't accomplish in order to be able to get to the stage of creating for ourselves